will be, there you go. This will be recorded. Just a reminder that anything you put in the chat, even if it's just a direct message to someone, will be saved. So if you have a comment that you don't want saved, which is fine, just text or email someone off of this. And Bishop, sorry to interrupt your flow. I just wanted to make sure people knew.
No problem at all, Jill. I'm glad to make sure that all of that's taken care of. So I'm excited about this year. There's a lot happening and a lot of moving parts. And what that means is there's a lot of joy and a lot of hope in our midst. The convention this year, we have Catherine Meeks is going to be with us. And her new book, it might be worth getting a book or having a book study at your parish. It's called The Night is Long, but Light Comes in the Morning. And I'm sure that Rachel, if you put that in the chat so people can find it, she's holding it up for you. And Catherine Meeks was with us a number of years ago now. She came for, I believe it was a ministry fair, and was here with us in person. She will be with us in person again, but online this time. And so she will be with us and talk with us about racial healing, but also what it is to be healed by God, what it is to be gathered by God with one another. As you know, this year we have a one-day convention, and it's the intent was to have convention be the business and to keep it fairly succinct. And then we were going to have an on-site and hybrid gathering in December with our presiding bishop. Several things have conspired with we were talking about a revival. Some of the plans were just bigger than the 2-day kind of revival. Some of the things needed a different, be worked out a different way. And then, as you know, our presiding bishop has undergone a surgery and is recovering. And it is really important that in this time that we care for one another. And I think to allow the space that if the presiding bishop wants to come, he is always welcome. And if he's able to be there, he absolutely can. But we're going to, instead of a full 2-day big revival, we're going to do a 1-day gathering on December 2nd. And if the presiding bishop's able to come, that is wonderful, and he can preach. And if not, that is just fine, because we're going to have a joyous day of really celebrating our diocese and celebrating the life in our midst, and having a day for that. And then in April, there'll be a separate event that will really be focused on healing in many ways, whether it's economic diversity, or whether racial diversity, LGBTQ+, aging population, that in April will come together to really be present to the suffering that's in our midst, and also God's love and forgiveness. So those two events will be happening. Since we're gathered to talk about convention, it is canonical that we have a Eucharist for convention. And that Eucharist will be on December 2nd. And it will be a joyous Eucharist. We will gather at one of our larger parishes, and we will have the ability for people to gather online or on site, and to be part of that event. And there have been some really wonderful planning that's gone on for the last several months, and all of that is going to be utilized in the coming months. So keep track of that. Right now in the diocese, I'm really grateful and pleased for, there's some new ministries starting, there's vibrancy in places, there's resiliency in others. And on the whole, I just keep being inspired by our diocese and our ministries. And you are part of that. And I know for many of you here, that a lot of work goes into some of these ministries, but I'm so grateful for the ways in which you are ministering, and the ways in which this diocese is coming together as a community of faith and being united in love. Over the next year, as you know, each year at convention, there's kind of been a theme over this next year, we're going to talk about joy. Often I think we think joy just means happy, or we kind of, I think, don't have as good of an understanding of joy in some ways. But when you think of that wonderful verse from Psalms 30, verse 5, weeping may endure for the night, but joy comes in the morning. That sense of resurrection, that re-hoping, that renewing of knowing that God loves us, God is in charge. And so this next year is going to be a lot about joy. That doesn't mean it's not going to be serious. We will continue to focus on climate care. We'll continue to focus on equality and justice. And my hope is we'll even take that next step and talk about some of the needs of some of our aging population, what it is to live in this time. And I'm even really looking at some events to do about how we talk with each other across difference. I think that is a real need. So I am looking at that. And if you have ideas, I would love to hear more about it. Tomorrow, it's a new day. I am going to have it's coming out. And I'm really excited to have a podcast that's being downloaded tomorrow. You can actually go on whatever platform you use, podcast or Spotify, and if you Google "Speaking of Faith" and then my name, it will come up. And I invite your questions and your comments, your input. I started off with the baptismal covenant because, as most of you know, I really think that is very important for us to think about in our day-to-day lives. But the purpose of the podcast is to allow a safe space to speak of faith. So I hope you will listen to it, send your questions, comments, share it with friends, because my hope is that it can create a space for more conversation about how to talk about our faith in this time in helpful and life-giving ways. So with that, I think those are the talking points that I have. Are there any questions that you may have for me, or things that you would like to know more about?
If you have a question, you can put them in the chat box or unmute yourself. You can use the raised hand option, which is always fun because we will use that at convention. I can see Rachel is putting in access to the podcast on a variety of platforms.
Yes.
And as a non-Apple person, I actually really appreciate that, Rachel. So thank you. Oh, and I am an Amazon person, which you can also use your Amazon account to buy fun swag, stickers, shirts, water bottles.
I love how you've commodified yourself. I'm not this, but I am that.
I am. I am an Android user. I do have an iPad, I have to admit. So I'm kind of, I use both. Any questions for the bishop? We do encourage them and we invite them. Nobody has to be.
And this is, if there's something you wondered about, this is really the time to talk about it, because we can have a conversation in ways when we normally cannot. So any questions or comments or things I should know from you?
I think, Bishop, everybody knows that we're about to launch the video of the year.
Yes.
It is all about the money and Steve
Well,
White. I'm kidding.
It's all about Steve White. I mean, the real celebrity of the whole thing is really about Steve White and his report on the money. So
correct.
I think at this point, Jill, just show us the money. That's really what we want to do right now.
That's right. Money and ministry, I think.
Money and ministry, man.
That's right. So Kathy, if you will cue that up, we can see that. And then Steve will be on to answer questions. Oh, he's already on, but yeah, perfect. Thanks, Kathy.
Hello. I'm Steve White, Treasurer of the Diocese of Central New York, and tonight I'm going to walk you through a few highlights of the budget that we will present to the convention. Now, y'all have had the opportunity to go online and see the budget in its detail, and I'm not going to cause your eyes to glaze over by going through it line by line. But if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to contact me or Kathy Hobart, the controller of the diocese. We may not be able to answer the question right away because a lot of work from a lot of people has gone into crafting the budget, and we might have to ask them, but we'll do our best to get back to you in a timely manner. As I've said before, maybe it's the priest in me, but I believe nearly everything we do in this diocese is ministry. Heck, even being at this meeting, praying with each other and getting prepared for the work of our convention is ministry. You see, all ministry is all that activity required for us followers of Christ to respond to what God is calling us to do, to live into our vision and mission statements. Those meetings and trainings we occasionally go to, ministry. The visits by the bishop, ministry. Her meetings with other bishops, ministry. Faithfully staffing the offices and getting all of us cats around the diocese herded and moving in the same direction, ministry. Making sure that we are good stewards of God's bounty, ministry. And the proposed budget we will be presenting to the convention reflects the board's priorities and our shared beliefs that we are people of God, and together we can make a kingdom-building difference. Now, rising prices, market turmoil, and the lingering effects of the global pandemic have impacted us all over the course of the past couple years. The board and staff are keenly aware of the need for careful and thoughtful stewardship. Transparency, informed choice, and accountability continue to be the core values of our work here in God's country. So let's take a look at the numbers. First off, we present another balanced budget. Second, our diocesan income streams are steady, reflecting the amazing stewardship of our resources on the part of Bishop Dede, Controller Kathy Hobart, the Finance Committee, and most importantly, you. Think of what this means. Coming out of some pretty scary years of COVID uncertainty, you have remained faithful to Christ's call to be his church in Central New York. Third, our expenses illustrate a continued commitment to ministry at all levels. Around 70% of the budget is devoted to ministry at the diocesan, regional, and parish levels. Only 30% is devoted to non-ministry issues, but still they are crucial and canonically required activities. And fourth, we continue to provide parishes, districts, coalitions, and other ministry groups with available opportunities to easily apply for significant grants to do much needed on-the-ground work. Since we have started this program of making grants for diocesan ministry back in 2020, we have allocated $155,164 to those various parishes and groups. I cannot stress enough how important this program is to all of us. It allows parishes to dream, change, react, and prayerfully make meaningful differences to the lives of people around us, people who so desperately need to know that God loves them, period. We currently have $50,000 budgeted for our first round of granting, and with good stewardship, we hope we might have more before the year is through. The diocesan board is always reviewing the priorities of these grants to make sure that we are listening to you and helping you fill your needs. Currently, those priorities are increasing connections between congregations and empowering interfaith ministry, creating a welcoming, nurturing environment for new Americans, addressing racial justice and reconciliation, creation caregivers, raising up lay leaders and clergy, and ministry in congregations. I encourage each parish to consider whether this might be a way to reach out around you in new ministry. This diocese has been generous, and by that I mean you have been generous. None of us will probably ever know how many ways we are reaching people and touching lives through this partnership. So bless you for what you do out there. Before I close, just a few more highlights. Remember again that total ministry activities totals around 70% of total expenditures, and that's amazing, y'all. The number of staff is unchanged from 2023. A cost of living adjustment of 5.65% has been included in the budget, responding to inflation and including a 1% carryover from 2023. The vacant canon to the ordinary position has just been filled. Where possible, to carry out our ministry, we are utilizing funds from reserves created for specific purposes. We continue to refrain from touching the principal of those funds. We are planning for new communications offerings, including podcasts and private diocesan network. This is way above my expertise, and I am excited to see what happens. So there you have it, the budget in a nutshell. I'm pleased to be able to present it to you, and I want to give thanks to God for all the hard, faithful work and so many hours that so many people devoted to providing faithful, prayerful, and numerical representation of the work we are continuing to do in the Diocese of Central New York. I thank them, and I want to thank you for your time. God bless you all.
Steve, I say it every time. Your videos are awesome. They make money fun. Not that we don't all want money. Go play the Powerball. But Steve, do you have any other comments before we open it up for questions?
No, again, I want to thank all of the people, including all of the parishes who give of their time and their treasure to help this diocese continue to move forward. And listening to what the bishop had to say, I'm very excited to see what 2024 brings. And I hope that we can keep putting the numbers to it and crunching it along and making it move forward. So thank you very much.
Any questions? Again, you can use the raise hand function. You can put them in the chat. So Steve, we do have a question. Maybe it's not you, anybody from the staff. Elizabeth asked, what is the size of the diocesan staff?
I will let one of the staff answer that. I'm sitting here busily counting right now.
Me too. I'm like, this is...
It's like, what, 7?
Yes, it is 7.
7?
Yeah, there's 7 on the staff. They're not all full-time. And Elizabeth and everyone, I would say we are one person shy of a full staff. It's not big enough is absolutely true. And I will say, you know, we have a balanced budget, and largely that's due to maintaining a small staff. But for this diocese, it is not feasible long-term to have such a small staff, because a lot of you are part of parishes that are smaller now. And with our smaller parishes, the support from the diocese becomes more important, having programming. What I brought Megan Castellan on to do is to help us build ministry capacity, like joining together what Syracuse West has done with having a youth group that's combined with parishes. We need more work where we're coming together, where we're not expecting parishes to stand on their own. And what I didn't do tonight, which I did last week, and I'd like to make up for that, Jill, right now, is last week I asked if your parish has benefited from a member of the staff, if you would raise your hand. If a member of the staff has supported you in some way or another, if you would raise your hand. Because one of the things that you'll see is that our staff, they're here to serve you and to empower your ministry. And the purpose of having 2 canons is so that we can ensure that we get clergy, that we connect with the wider clergy base and bring in clergy so that we can create more ministries. So that, and Kathy Hobart's amazing service to you with the payroll. And so my hope is in the next year to increase the staff by 1 full-time person. And that's very aspirational. And I don't want to burden the diocese. I don't want it to be something where we burden anyone, but we also need to recognize that it will help us more efficiently support you and make it so that it's very workable for the diocese. I'm really proud of the staff. Each member of the staff honors you with their ministry, and I'm very grateful to each of them and to you. Like Steve said, this is a community effort, and it is important that your faithful dollars and your faithful giving goes into faithful ministry. So thank you all for being part of that.
Great question and a great response. The staff is amazing. The volunteers are okay. Just kidding. There you go. I see Steve with his and Rachel. So any other questions before we move on from, and I just have to tell you, I've seen the preview. When you attend convention, there's an updated video from Steve. So I feel like I just need to plug the video awesomeness that is Steve. So with that said, I think also fun, poor Martha. Martha, I feel like I always plug Steve and then I pass it to you. But we're going to talk about changes to constitutions and canons. Also fun. I'm weird.
Or not.
Yeah, I'm weird. I love it all.
So
yeah.
And I know that life is not fair. I really get that. But I do not know why I always have to go right after Steve. But just saying that, okay? Although I will say that Canon Megan and I have a live presentation for conventions. So maybe we'll get a little leg up on that. I don't know. No competition, right? Anyway, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Martha Berry. I'm one of the chancellors for the diocese, which is a fancy name for lawyer. And this past year, we have been working on updating our canons for our diocesan canons. For those of you who are not familiar with canons, they are not to be confused with Canon Tom and Canon Megan. They are actually written canons. They are the rules by which the diocese does business, and they are not to be confused. And I have a prop, Steve. They are not to be confused with the Constitution and canons of the Episcopal Church. So there are lots of rules, as is probably not a surprise to anybody. And most of you will never have to deal with them. And I often say, if you're having to deal with the canons, you already have a problem, but we don't need to go there tonight. Anyway, our task for this past year was to try to update our canons. And so what we are proposing are some overall changes. The idea was to make them more user-friendly, to update the language, to eliminate terms and concepts that we just don't use anymore. We really wanted to make them conform to how we are currently doing business. So I can walk through some of the changes. Nothing is major, but just for example, we eliminated terms like shared community pastors. I mean, what is that anyway, right? And the church army evangelists, which doesn't exist anymore. We are recommending that the provisions for clusters, which, and I know I'm dating myself, but I think that goes back to the 80s when there was this whole provision. If churches wanted to work together, they had to do all this, get approval to do anything together. We're not doing that. Churches work together all the time. I know a lot of you join in worship services regularly. You share clergy, you share community projects, and we welcome that. We don't need a structure, a formal structure and approval process for doing that. One thing that is probably the most noticeable about the proposed changes is the language about our congregations. We have parishes. Our current canons use different terms. We have parishes, but then we have diocesan chapels, diocesan missions, and diocesan college chapels. And those terms in what we currently have tend to be sort of used interchangeably. We're proposing that the term mission, and so we have parishes, those are parishes that function on their own. There are always going to be congregations that need support from the diocese. Our current canons referred to those congregations as chapels. We are recommending that they be referred to as missions. I think that's more consistent with how congregations that are supported by dioceses are treated across the Episcopal Church, and more consistent with what the common sense notion of a mission is. And the idea here is that if there are Episcopalians who are not part of a parish and want to worship together, perhaps they could form a new mission, or missions who are currently existing might get strong enough to be considered for a parish. So we're trying to enable that and think forward into the future when there may be different types of worshiping communities. So that's really the one notable change to the canons that we're proposing. Other than that, it's pretty just updating language, making sure it says clergy instead of clergymen, making sure that we use inclusive language. We're encouraging the diocesan board and the Commission on Ministry to attempt to be more geographically diverse. We know that's a hard challenge, but the idea is to have it as a goal. So that's sort of a summary of the changes. You'll be getting all this morning. The Constitutions and Canons Committee approved these changes, so they will be coming. So stay tuned. And I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Again, Martha, thank you. You are wonderful. Does anybody have any questions? We really do appreciate questions. I see that Brooke said what an enormous amount of work. It absolutely has been. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. You can unmute yourself. Nobody has to be scared.
I'm just going to say, on the enormous amount of work, a huge thanks goes to Kathy Dengler and Sarah Alamond, who this is not in their job description, to help me with the formatting and updating the language of the canons. But they did it, and they did a fantastic job, and I can't thank them enough.
Yeah, another shout out to the diocesan staff, which we talked
Exactly.
about. Yeah. Okay, any questions, comments? Okay, I can still see that a few people are awake, so that's good. I'm kidding. So next up, Chris, I see you. You're on mute, which is fine. You can unmute yourself, but we'll go through the other resolutions not related to Constitution and canons.
Correct. Now, those of you who have not fallen asleep may do this during this time. I'm Chris Day. I'm one of the chairs of resolutions. The first two are, the second, number 2, is the one that Martha was just speaking about, the changes to the canons. And those only need to be voted upon in this convention. And if passed, they become our canons. Number 1 are the changes that were made to the Constitution, which everyone passed last year. And because it's the Constitution, not the Constitution of the entire Episcopal Church, but just our diocesan Constitution, has to be voted on for the second time. The next 2 are ones that if you have been to convention before, you will have seen before. If you've been a member of the vestry or a financial committee of a parish, you've seen them before. They are the 2024 guidelines for both clergy compensation and for supply clergy. As you might have picked up in Steve's brilliant presentation, there is a cost of living recommendation that is recommended. Again, these are guidelines. That is 5.65, and that's for 4.65% cost of living for 2023. And if you have a memory that goes to that last year, we carried an extra percentage forward to this year. We carried it over because it would have been too large last year. And that leaves us to, we only have 5. And the 5th one is for a call to prayer beginning Advent 1 for all parishes to pray about gun violence as part of their regular worship, and hope that as prayer forms us as Christians, it will also then form us as our actions out in the community. But it is a prayer in regards to gun violence and a call for that. As was mentioned before, all these will be mailed to you or emailed to you and be made available on the website on October 6th. All of these 5 were reviewed at the hearing on resolutions last week and are by the committee recommended for adoption. And if there's anybody still awake, I'll entertain any specific questions.
I have a question.
Mhm.
For the resolution about praying for gun violence, are the words going to be given to us, or do we have to make it up ourselves? Because I get kind of like, when I say anything, I get in trouble because I have a big mouth. It would just be easier for me to follow along.
Right. Yes, indeed, because there are some references like Bishops Against Gun Violence and the Episcopal Peace Fellowship, which have some, both as if you wanted to add a separate collect in, or a clause that could be added onto your prayers of the people. It exists in a multitude and easily borrowable from each other. Good question, Christine.
Are there any other questions, comments? Okay, Chris, thank you so much. As I said in the chat, you were also my other assisting secretary, so thank you for that as well. All right. If we weren't excited enough about Steve's video, we are now going to practice vote, which I love. I'm weird. Harmon, you out there?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, let's go. You can do your OPA vote and then I'll do some fun polls and we'll wrap it up after that.
All right, we'll try to make this quick. I'm gonna jump to an assumption that everybody here has at one time or another used OPA vote. Just a couple of things. You should have, everybody that registered for tonight should have received a unique code in an email yesterday. If you have not, check your junk or spam folders. Although we've had other email issues in the past. These codes are for tonight and tonight only. If you are a delegate, you will receive a unique code the day before convention. If something happens to that code, somebody at convention will have the overall list and be able to assist you in replacing the missing code. Do not share your code with anyone. If you're a delegate and you find you cannot attend convention and you get a code, don't worry about it. The alternate that takes your place will be issued their own different unique code. Let's see. All codes are uppercase letters. You will never see a number or a lowercase number letter. For example, an O is a letter O. It's not a 0. Never will be. If you see an I, it's an uppercase I. It's not the number 1. It's not a lowercase L. It's a capital I. Now, when Joe discusses polling, if 2 delegates are sharing a Zoom window, you can both vote by each clicking on the link that I paste or that I post. Polling is different. Joel will address that. So I think we're ready to have some fun. There's the link to OPA vote. You can go out, have some fun. I also put my personal email, my St. Matthews, South New Berlin email, and of course the convention email. If you have questions, concerns, problems, I'll be more than happy to go one-on-one with anybody at any time.
And so, Harmon, I'm excited. I always try to vote for somebody different during these. But the link should be in the chat box, and we're joking about this being fun, but this is how it's going to happen during convention. This is specific to voting for people for nominations, and I'll walk you through the other things later, but this will be important. So hopefully, last week, everybody said that we went too fast. So.
Well, they can
We'll give
always
it a minute.
contact me if they need more help.
Yeah. Right.
So if nobody has any questions or concerns at this time, I can pass it over to you, Jill, for polling.
Yeah. And again, if you're new to convention and you don't feel like you can speak up on these calls, feel free to. We'd rather fix any concerns that you have now. I see Jean, I didn't have time to enter connection. I'm not sure if that's, I just want to make sure if you're trying to vote. You can unmute yourself, you don't have to. We can follow up, but Harmon, how are we doing on the numbers?
I don't, I'm kind of lost. This is my
That-
first time doing this, so I
Yeah.
don't know what to do now. How do I get involved to vote?
All right, first you have to open the chat. You know
Yeah,
how to do that.
I've got, wait a minute.
Down at the bottom of your,
Yeah,
Zoom.
okay. Yeah, I've got that. Okay, that's
okay,
open.
now, do you see in the chat box where I posted, I can do it again?
Where, okay, and I
Okay.
just link
Let
onto
me-
that?
I just
Do I
posted
have
it
to-
again. All you
Okay,
need to do is click on that.
I did, okay.
All right, and that should take you to a window where you can enter in that unique code.
Is my code that I got to sign on, is that what you're
Yes.
talking about? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and Jean, you are probably not alone. Yep, I
Okay.
see,
Alright.
I see Tracy just said she doesn't have a code. Please, if you're sitting there and you're worried, this is a good time, but Harmon posted his emails. You can also always email us at convention@cnyepiscopal.org. But this is why we do it, so that
Right.
on the day of convention, we try to have less issues. So,
So-
I
yeah,
don't know, I entered my code, but now I've got confusing things here, a scan QR code, and I don't know what all this is.
Where I've never seen that one.
Well, well, anyway, that's what it said. Oh,
should have gotten-
my whole code didn't get in. I didn't, all right, wait a minute. Let me finish putting it in.
and while Jean does that, Tracy, one of the things that we should say is if you are not a delegate or a clergy or somebody who has a vote, you will not get the OPA vote code, and we'll talk about that in a minute again. So
Tracy, if you were registered for tonight, you should have gotten an email from convention at CNY Episcopal yesterday with that code in it. If you do not have that email, check your junk folder, spam folder, or perhaps there's some other email issue that we can look into.
Yep. And again, that's why. So Harmon, do you have a sense of the results before we go into my questions about pizza?
Well, 28 people visited, 20 people voted so far.
Okay. And again, and Kathy's put it in the chat box, we've heard from you. If you have concerns about the ability to vote, this is what we'll use for standing committee, diocesan board, disciplinary board, general convention, etc. So you'll only have to do this once during convention. But what you will have to do more of during convention is, for those of you who used to go to the Holiday Inn in person pre-COVID, we would give you a green card and a red card. Do people remember that?
Yes.
I hope. Okay.
Yep.
So Zoom actually gives us a little bit more accuracy not that the bishop can't see green or red, although color, colorblind people might disagree. But so what we will do during convention, and it's something as simple as appointing Kathy Dangler, myself, and Chris Day to be the secretaries of convention, to other more serious things like our resolutions. So and last week, now I want to check. Okay, so Bishop, you're not going to be able to vote this week because you are a co-host. But what we will do is during convention, the bishop will announce that we're opening a poll. So she will say, we will announce Kathy Dangler, Jill Morales, Christine Day for secretaries of convention. And in the past, you would have raised a green card, a red card, or maybe have been getting a cup of coffee or abstained. So what's going to happen is you will see a poll that's going to pop up on your screen. So I'm going to launch it now. And what happens is when I launch it, you will all see the question.
Mm-hmm.
Those of us who are co-hosts will see what's there. The bishop can see that real time during convention. I can't get rid of my pizza for breakfast question. It's just a good one, because what it does is it allows us to see that maybe it's not all green, not all red. We can see how many people have responded in the meeting. We'll give it time. So now I can see that 82% of the participants, 30 of 35 have responded, which is probably because everybody else is a host. So when I end the poll, I can share the results. So hopefully on your screen, you all can see, much like you would in a room, the same thing the bishop would see. If everybody holds up green or red. And this is specific to people with vote, voice and vote. So if we have someone who is a guest who answers that they love pizza for breakfast, we can get rid of that. But this just hopefully gives you a sense. And then we don't use this, but I wanted to test it tonight. So here's another one. So this is about ice cream. And you can click on one, hopefully. I put a little Easter egg in there, which oh, somebody from Maine. Okay, so it looks like the majority of people have voted. I'm going to, don't stress if you didn't, it's fine. I'm going to end the poll. I'm going to share the results. Oh, so actually Ben and Jerry's, the reason I did this is so that you guys can see, we can see the percentage of people who are saying yes to something. If you have not been to the state of Maine and had Gifford's ice cream, I would encourage you to go. But yep. So, did anyone have an issue? Oh, Rachel, pistachio. I do love pistachio, but they also, Gifford's has grape nut ice cream, which if you have never had grape nut ice cream would be amazing. Kate Bell, I just want to respond to you. So yes, we can see the percentages. I don't know if those come across when I share it. But yes, we can see that. And Steve Widrick, my fabulous co-warden from Trinity Louville, is there an age restriction to be a delegate? I don't actually, you can be a youth delegate. I don't know where the cutoff is. Martha or the bishop or someone, is there? Chris, you're on mute. I see your hand up.
$18, according to existing canon.
Thank you. I just know looking at the screen, there's not a lot of youthful people on the screen, and sometimes their ideas are important in our diocese and the church as a whole.
That's Steve's way of saying I look old. I'm kidding. Great, good question, Steve. Thank you. And yes, Kathy, thank you for that. So if you're under 18 and you're a youth delegate, you have voice but not vote. So just making sure in the, okay, so Kate said she saw the percentages, not the numbers. So Kate, we can follow up on that. I think the nice thing again about Zoom polling is if you're in a big room and the bishop calls a vote and everybody holds up a card, it would normally just be kind of a visual of something. We can see the numbers. So behind the scenes, and we can track it. We can download an Excel of who voted. So if, like I said before, if an alternate or a guest votes, we will get rid of that. The whole point of my pizza poll, oddly enough, is that it gives a sense of something that may not be a full, like, green vote, so that people feel comfortable. So if you have any questions, you can always follow up. Okay, I'm going to, are there any other questions? I don't want to cut anybody off. All right. So one of the things that we'd like to ask is if you have someone that you know is a delegate who can't make it to convention, please put through that change as soon as you can. We can take it up to the morning of convention. That's fine. That will help us. And I think, Kathy, the deadline to get, just looking at my notes. Yeah, October 10th is the day that you can still receive a refund. If you've registered someone that people can't go. Kathy also just posted the convention website in the chat. Are there any other questions, concerns? Rachel, do you want to talk about creating our space for convention? Sorry to put you, I know that you weren't, yeah.
Yeah, I can do that. Just very quickly, I'll share my screen. And kind of show you around our Convention Central page here on the website. Kathy or Sarah, maybe you could pop this URL into the chat. But there's a lot here. I want to especially draw your attention here on the left side under Convention 155 Basics. There's a section called Convention Placemaking. So you've heard us say a lot, on-site or online, it's all in person. And placemaking kind of gets into that. It's a way to honor the fact that you bring your whole self, your physical body to a virtual space, even if we're not meeting on site. And we're highlighting that on our social media this week as well. And let's see. I want to show you, there are links there also to our swag. So you can see here, totes, sweatshirts, mugs. This is a really great travel mug with a lid, some regular mugs, water bottles, notebooks. We've got a sticker store here. That link is also on the convention page. You can make anything CNY Episcopal. We have our convention sticker here, but also some stickers with our vision and mission on them. And then this one from one of our Pride designs, which are also still available in our bonfire shop. Sarah mentioned in the chat earlier that we have a playlist on Spotify. So these are some refreshing tunes to help us think about the theme for convention. They all have to do with refreshing or water. Even my personal favorite in here is Octopus's Garden, as sung by Raffi. Highly recommend. So that's there. And we also have a form where you can submit your suggestions. Jill gave a great suggestion for a song that we added to that playlist, and you can as well. We'll also be sharing some ways to bring your sense of taste into convention. Again, back to honoring you as your whole person. So there'll be more about that, but you can keep up with all of it on our Facebook and on our Instagram. Oh, look, hey, there's a little reminder about the podcast tomorrow. Where we're talking about convention placemaking, and then in our stories, both on Instagram and on Facebook, each day sharing a song from our convention playlist with a countdown, and we've got a highlight of that here on our Instagram, so you could see all the songs that we've shared so far. You'll see there's a wide variety of styles and types of music, so we've got more of that coming every day until convention. I think is that all you wanted me to do, Jill?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for letting me put you on the spot, because you're much more engaged in that. And what I would say to those of you who were like, oh, what's Instagram? What's Facebook? We will continue to email you with updates. Find a friend if you're not comfortable with social media. If we know not everybody, right? I feel like Facebook is for the old folks now, like the new, there's everything out there, but don't feel like you'll be left out. We will make sure that you get a sticker if you need one. You can always email us, and you can pick up the phone, and you can always call us. I feel like we all like go and we text people and we send them a message on social media. And then the question is, did you call them? So always feel free to call. Are there any other questions? Comments? Okay. Bishop, any other final comments before you close us in prayer?
I don't have any. Are there any final questions or things that would help us with prepare? Well, then let us pray. God, for all that has been discussed, for all that has been on our hearts, and for this night, we pray your blessing. As we go from this space, Lord, continue to be with us this night, that we may rest and renew and arise in the morning ready to serve you and those around us. Thank you, Lord, for this time. And as we depart, bless and keep us. In your name we pray. Amen. Blessings, everyone. See you soon, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, everybody. Reach out if you have any questions.
Thank you.